Okay, so welcome to our marriage and parenting podcast.
Yeah, welcome.
We are Roger and Nikki, and for those of you who are watching, I am sitting on a cushion. I'm not this tall. Roger has been very upset about that. We look the same height. Apparently we're not, and that's a big deal. But for those of you on the podcast, you're going to have to go and watch the YouTube video to go and see. But we are coming to you from our home. If you hear a dog walking around, that's Max, our golden retriever with long nails. Sorry about that. And we're both a little bit snotty, so I hope we don't sniff into the microphone.
We're going to be okay.
If we do. And we have Adi and Mishka with us behind the camera. Wave around or something. Let the people see you. But this is our marriage and parenting top-up podcast because we feel like there was so much in your brilliant last two messages.
Thank you.
Great messages. And we wanted to give an opportunity for us to kind of provide some extra info, bring some topics that are sometimes taboo into the light. There's been a lot of conversation in life group, a lot of conversation after church, and we just wanted to take a moment to kind of dive in a little bit deeper. And we feel like there was so much to talk about that we actually decided instead of putting marriage and parenting together, we're going to do parenting today because that's what was covered first in the sermon. And then after this Sunday, where we're going to talk a little bit more about marriage, we will cover some questions that relate to marriage.
Yeah, we didn't realize how many people this was going to scratch where it itched.
Yeah.
I finished preaching on Sunday in both meetings, and there were so many people who came up with this. You know, sometimes you finish a message and there's this eagerness to talk, and this was one of those moments. One person in particular, not to kind of blow my own horn, but more a person came up and said, thank you for saying that stuff.
Wow.
You know, that earnest sense of the picture I had almost was this feeling as parents in this parenting conversation, almost like you're a frog boiling in water and you don't realize that the years are passing and your parenting looks more like the culture than it does look like Jesus.
Yeah.
And after a little while you go, I'm not sure I like the parent I'm becoming.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure I like the children I'm raising.
Yeah.
Like, that's a scary thought. And a bunch of people realizing that and then, thanking me / us for verbalizing the fact that we want to go there. We want to, do things the way Jesus calls us to do them and to raise children.
And raise parents, because that's actually so much part of it.
Yeah.
Is even the conversations we've been having is realizing that so much of this journey of raising our children has to do with us growing up and dealing with what's inside of us.
Exactly right.
Yeah, that's so much of this conversation. And we do just also recognize that it's not like one size fits all. I think maybe that's even been some of my journey in parenting, is hoping that there would be like the silver bullet. Like if you just do these 3 steps that your children are going to turn out fine. And there just isn't. No. And there's no silver bullet. There's no perfect cookie cutter. But there is the help of the Holy Spirit, and there's the wisdom of Scripture and community around us that we actually, and so many of these conversations we've been having is people just going, I'm just so grateful that we can talk about this and grapple with it together.
Which is the most important part.
Yeah.
It's just creating a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good place to start,
Yeah.
but Nick's had this moment after the sermon. We were kind of reflecting and chatting in our kitchen, not far from here, and you said, "Man, it feels like parenting is just one long conversation."
Yeah.
And I found myself going, "That's exactly what parenting is like. You're literally having a long conversation with each of your kids, and they're having one with each other, and you are trying to kind of facilitate an increasingly long conversation about life." And you're just talking until you get it. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, because I just thought that was such a profound descriptor of the parenting journey.
Yeah, and I think it just came to me in a moment, but I think it came out of the fact of people often ask questions like, is this the right decision, or should we lay down this rule, or should we let our kids do that or the next thing? And it's often like phones and screen time and whatever it might be. Can they watch this or listen to this music or go to this place? And I just realized that actually the more helpful thing is to view it not, are we making the right decisions all the time? But if you view parenting as a conversation, then you can, even when you feel like you've made the wrong decision, you can talk to your child about that and be like, actually, we're going to go back on that. And I'm sorry, that was the wrong thing. But I think sometimes as parents, it's tempting to not see parenting as a conversation. So you see parenting as
Like a set of principles.
A set of principles, and something you kind of get out the way so you can get on with the rest of your life.
Wow.
And actually know this is your life and it's ongoing, and it's you are doing other things in your life, but you have this conversation with your child or your children constantly the whole time, and you are literally explaining the world to them and explaining the principles of God to them and explaining your shortcomings to them sometimes and apologizing and then asking for forgiveness and leading them and talking to them. And I think that takes the pressure off as well, because it's not a performance thing and it's not perfect decisions or principles. But it's like, it also speaks about how relational parenting is. It's not just like these power dynamics at play.
And that maybe also touches on that point. You know, a lot of people in our life group were talking about the point I made in parenting, that we run the risk of turning parenting into a chore. Like this, it's a chore of something we have to do, we have to get done. And I used the analogy where we had an announcement at church and we said, school holidays are coming.
Yeah.
And
who's excited?
Yeah, who's excited? And the whole room kind of drained of energy. And you go, why? You're getting time with your children. And that shouldn't be a chore. It should be a blessing. Because you get to engage those conversations. You get to carry on the important conversation. But it can slip into that because our culture is so financially driven.
Yes.
So you think of life as a line item. And so parenting lives in one of the silos of a thing I need to get done. And it's costly. It costs me time. It costs me energy. And God doesn't look at it like that. He integrates our whole lives, and he says your children are a gift from God, that he has given us these eternal beings made in his image with remarkably our DNA.
Yeah.
So it's like, what a gift, this bundle of life that comes into your world, that is your DNA, made by God, that's going to look a bit like you, act a bit like you, humble you because they're going to do that. And then you've got to start this conversation, and it's not a chore, it's something to cherish. It's a privilege.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the hot topics, because a lot of people found themselves going, wow, I've slipped into that. I've let my parenting become a thing I need to get done. But you never get it done.
Totally.
Like, that's something to settle. Like, you never get parenting done.
Yeah.
It's an incomplete task. It's an ongoing forever thing. And when you settle that, you start to enjoy it more.
Yes.
Because you invest rightly, and then you get kids you enjoy.
Yes, exactly.
And that's the wonder of parenting, when suddenly you've got kids you're starting to enjoy, because you're investing to that critical amount that your investment is bearing dividends.
Yes.
And they're growing up, and you go, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
And many people, I think, are just investing so little, just enough to keep the behavior or whatever in check, but then they're not getting enjoyable children.
Yeah.
And so it becomes a chore.
Yeah.
That's the scary thing. You're at that tipping point.
Totally. So good. And so many people have I think yesterday we had that conversation of, I think the irony when you do treat children like a chore is that they even lean into that, and then they do become hard work, because
Right.
you
play
kind
the
of
part.
like, they play the part that you are not just speaking over them, but like boxing them into, and they see no other role to play in your life.
So how do we do that? How do we take it from chore to cherish? Like, what are some of the things to do better as parents? Not better, but do more of, to take it away from that feeling that the culture puts on you. Like, man, they're an expense. Get them to the best school, and the school will make them better children. Like, how do we re-engage and own the journey of cherishing parenthood?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a big one. The first thing that jumps to mind is actually, no matter where your child is, like actually getting to know them as a person and staying curious, just how you would about your spouse or people that you like. Stay curious about your child and get to know them, and then even begin to like speak about them and your relationship with faith.
Yes.
And I always think of actually my parents in this, is that they were so good about speaking about us even to other people as if we were like the best people that they knew. And like my mom would often say things like, it's just no one better that I would want to have dinner with than you guys, and we genuinely believed that. And I'm not sure if it was always true. I think it was, but like those things, almost like you speaking, and I'm not saying like declare over your kid, but actually speak with faith about your relationship and about your experience of them, and then choose to invest in that. And I mean, again, it's like I heard someone once say, water the flowers, not the weeds. And again, like actually, if your children are doing things that are actually a chore that you need to see to, and if you keep giving that attention, they do become more difficult to deal with. But if you water the parts of them that are godly and amazing, those things grow.
Yeah.
And so I'm not just saying focus on the positive all the time. We obviously need to attend to the negative, but to water the flowers for those to grow, to actually, encourage that to come out.
And I think I also think just practice gratitude.
Yeah.
So regularly thank God for your kids. Spend meaningful time with them, that you get to see who they are and enjoy who they're becoming. I find trying to get a vision for who my kids are becoming helps me to cherish the task. I think, that scripture, without vision, people perish or cast off restraint. There's even in parenting, if you don't have, I'm not saying a vision as in I want to get them through university or I want them to get great jobs. I'm saying,
which is often the vision that culture has for their children.
Exactly. But the vision of who are they becoming? What kind of person are they becoming? And then realizing, cool, they're all different. Each of our 3 girls are totally different. That's not the point. But man, I want to help them in their differences to become more like Jesus. The introvert to still know how to love people. The extrovert to know how to, become a person who uses that extroversion for the glory of God and the good of those around them. So I think when you get a vision of who your kids are becoming, suddenly the investment feels so much more meaningful and beautiful, rather than a very kind of, I suppose, generic cultural vision of, varsity, job, wife or husband, and whatever.
Marks,
that just
school.
seems so dull, actually.
Yeah, so good. So I'm keen to dive into some of these questions. Thank you to people that have been leaving questions on our link. That's just been really cool to see, as well as some other questions that have come up in conversation. And I don't quite know where to start, because we spoke about reordering these, but let's maybe start with the first one that came in, because they were so faithful getting their question in first. So there was just a mom who said she was a mom who recognized, just out of Sunday, recognized so many of the things you spoke about, that actually her children were grown up. They're young adults already out of school.
Why don't you read it out?
In light of yesterday's sermon on parenting, I recognized so many parenting mistakes I've made, creating kids who are entitled and ungrateful.
Wow.
As a mom of a 19-year-old and a 23-year-old who both still live at home, where do I even begin rectifying those mistakes?
I mean, my first thought is, wow, thank you for being so vulnerable and honest. I mean, there's a real heartfelt earnestness in that, and I'm so grateful for that honesty and vulnerability, and that idea of entitled and ungrateful. I think to be able to use this moment to remind myself that in your vulnerability, as you've shared this, you're helping every other parent with younger kids to go, how do we create a vision for our parenting that doesn't necessarily land that way? And so we're so grateful for your willingness to go, that's not where I wanted to be. And the good news, as Nix and I sort of chatted and have kind of been praying about how do we respond, my convictions are always that there is nothing beyond the redemption of Jesus Christ. And so there's nothing in our lives or in our parenting or in our children that God can't redeem. And we've seen far more than what's described here be redeemed by God and His amazing grace. And so that would be the first place to start, is to always look up and to always look at God and go, if He could redeem all the people in the scriptures that were so far from God, then He could redeem your story. And you can add, my first port of call is to do exactly what you've done here, is to own it, is to really face God and to face others and to say, wow, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I'm owning it. I'm not pretending, because I think a lot of parents do pretend, and that's why they get where they are. They pretend it's not what it is, and they pretend that they can carry on in the culture's way of parenting, hoping it will turn out good. And the moment you stop pretending is the moment you cross the line into truth. Yeah. And Jesus said, the truth will set you free. And from there on out, you're in the redemptive hands of God to come and start a new story. So my excitement for you is that you sound like you're in that place when a person says, where do I go from here? I don't know if you want to add
I was just thinking of, actually, it's never too late to start the conversation. If we think of the fact that parenting is like one long conversation, that obviously you've been having that conversation with your kids already, but to actually, even part of owning your stuff is to own that with your children, and to even say, oh, maybe I did things in a way that wasn't always great, but can we do things differently? Here's some things that I'm talking through or thinking about, and just keeping that communication open with your children as much as possible. And then to see, it goes on from what you said, but just like we would in anybody else's life, is when we see failure, actually it's not an end, it's not a closed door, and failure in inverted commas, because this isn't a failure, but it's an area, it's actually an opportunity for God to work and to reveal himself. And the first thing I thought of when I read this question was, a friend of mine once told me, when I was in a place of like, and I still get there often, of just being so afraid to make mistakes as a parent, and almost like being so petrified that I'm going to mess my children up, and do the wrong thing or whatever, and it's going to have lasting consequences. But actually, this person said to me, what will your children have to go to God about if they don't have your mess ups? And that is, actually, this is an opportunity for God to work in their lives, and nothing is beyond redemption, as we said. So to trust God in that our own failings and shortcomings are an opportunity for God to work.
Yeah. And lastly, I would say, because it's not simple, I think the important thing is to lean into Christian community and to say, how do we do this together? This is where you are. And together we build the story of redemption.
Yeah.
And we ask God to help us. There's people with much older kids who are asking those questions. I sat with a person who's into his 60s and has a much older child who's not, where he wished he would be. And yet we're still trusting God for redemption there. So you could have a 3-year-old, you could have a 30-year-old. We're all in these places of vulnerability. And my final thing would be to say, don't slip into guilt and victimhood. You need to, and I think that's what's the start of that.
Yes.
Is to go to God and say, I'm not the victim. And I also don't want to live in guilt, believing that I'm the problem and I caused all these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah.
You go up to God and say, God, I am where I am. I want to own my part, but not with guilt, in grace. And I want to start a journey of redemption. I want to apologize where I need to apologize. I want to walk where I need to walk. And I want to say, God, take me forward in your grace. I think that, and do that together with some godly people.
The next question that came up was about idolizing our children, which I think is such it's just so tempting in culture today and for parents. Regarding idolizing my kids, my marriage fell apart because I did this to my daughter. I mean, I still do this, the question says. So how do we stop idolizing our kids without swinging too far and them bearing the brunt of, I suppose, like this new way of parenting?
Wow. So you've got this child who's the center of a parent's world. Then they realize, oh my goodness, I'm no longer the center.
Yeah.
I'm just a part of.
Yeah.
How do you actually journey a child whose parents are realizing they've been worshiping their child?
Yes.
And this was also, and I think is a real hot topic in our world, is this idolatry of our kids. And to put in picture, the idea of idolatry is to put anything on the throne of our hearts that we love more than God himself.
Yeah.
And the way you find your idols is you discover, what do you worry most about? What do you lie in bed thinking about? What do you pray most about? Those are some of the ways to discover. And many parents will discover, wow, I worry more about my children than I worry about glorifying God, and I've justified that. And that's a tough place to go, but a really important place to go, because you are putting a crushing weight on your child. That's one of the strange things. We think if we love our kids perfectly, that they will come out good. But actually the scriptures say if we love God well, as best we can, and we take our children into the journey of loving God, they will learn to love God, and they won't be crushed under the weight of us overly depending on them to perform and become everything we want them to become. And we see that all over. It's such a common narrative that a child felt, many of us grew up kind of feeling the weight of our parents' pressure to become something. And that's called idolatry. Your parents living through their child.
Yeah.
And so I think the first thing to just remind ourselves of is that we're all vulnerable to it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a continuum of
Yes.
how idolatrous are you towards your kids,
Yeah.
not are you? And then to firstly repent. That's the scripture's key answer to all these things is turn away. Stop and say, God, I can't believe I've thought my kids were more important than you. And I'm sorry because, God, I have put an undue pressure on them to be something in my life that they could never be.
Yeah.
And I realize that that is going to crush them.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt me and those around them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you repent, you're recognizing there's dire consequences to your behavior, mostly to the, lacking glory for God.
Yes.
That's a good place to start. I don't know if you want to keep building on that.
Well, I just keep going back to the conversation piece and actually how to help that child who's maybe very used to the world revolving around them, that actually we use our words to explain what is happening in not just this moment, but actually as a family, we have a way of talking and a way of explaining things that we keep reminding each other, you're not the center of the world. Even if in a joking way, you say, oh no, the world doesn't revolve around you,
Which we say to our kids often, right?
Totally, yes.
And that's good.
Yeah.
And we laugh about it all the time.
Yes, yeah.
We often say, what did your last slave die of? Okay? When they demand lots of us.
Literally.
And that's a pretty good one. I think you stole that from your mom.
My mom used to say, and she'd say, the world does not revolve around, when I would announce my plan for the afternoon, no, the world does not revolve around you. And I'm so grateful because it doesn't. And someone needed to tell me that. And, but just to keep talking and explaining. And someone taught me the other day about the narrative gap for children. And when they don't understand something in the world and in what their parents are doing, that there's a narrative gap and they fill the gap. And they often fill the gap with negative things. So I'm the reason why this is happening. It's my fault. And so just to fill that narrative gap with actually, this is why maybe things are different, or actually we're making this decision in this way, and to actually explain. And that's why I love the thing of the conversation, is because actually we are filling the narrative gap that our children may have with truth, so that they can live lives that are true, and they're not living something that's just not true.
And as I think about it, kids are way more resilient than we think.
Yeah.
So we live in a world that says kids are fragile and on the edge of cracking and breaking. And that is true only to the point that we develop fragile kids.
Yeah.
So we do. So I think our parenting styles in the modern world have created fragile kids, and that's statistically true, that the modern child is more fragile than a kid in the 90s or the 60s. But that doesn't need to be. Kids are resilient.
Yes.
And a kid, if you genuinely say, I am moving from worshiping child to worshiping God.
Yeah.
And you transition in an honest way where you say, God, I want you to be the center, and I want to bring my children along on this journey of God exaltation and making more of Jesus and his mission. You know what's going to happen is your kids are going to thank God for it for the rest of their lives. It's not going to be my gosh, I'm no longer the center. They're going to see the fruit of a parent who's no longer crushing them. Because remember, if you're idolizing your child, you're actually a burden to your child.
Yeah.
Inevitably, there's going to be behaviors that you're going to have slipped into where it's going to be academic pressure you're putting on them that shouldn't be, or there is freedom they shouldn't have that's hurting them.
Yeah.
So many idolize children in our generation. They've got low levels of discipline, except when it comes to academics and performance.
Yes.
They've got high freedom on screens often. And when you take those freedoms away and you provide new healthy freedoms for the glory of God and the good of their growth, there may be a small amount of pain for a greater amount of freedom.
Yes, yeah.
And so most kids are going to take a few weeks or months, and then they're going to go, wow, Dad's changed. He seems to love something else, and it's done me good. So I wouldn't worry so much about changing, from loving child more than loving God. I'd be thrilled by the thought, because everyone wins when you put God first.
So good. Here comes Max.
Here's our Max, but you probably can't see him.
Yeah. Okay, moving on a little bit. I think something that just has really struck a chord in this conversation, and we mentioned in the beginning, is just how much of you're looking at your watch. We're still fine for time.
No, all good.
How much of this journey has to do with our own stuff, and as parents, as adults, how we need to deal with our own insecurities, our own hang-ups, our own weaknesses even that come out onto our children. And I just loved on Sunday when you actually said so much of what it means to be a parent is to be a parent. And I think even idolizing your children
Right.
is often choosing to be their friend, wanting them to like you. And so it's, yes, have a phone, yes, watch what you want, yes. And so you're
Wow, so you
stepping
so
away,
badly wanna be
so
liked.
badly want to be liked by them.
Yeah.
And that's another way of idolizing them. And then when they don't respond in the way that you want them to respond, they don't think you're the center of the world, and they don't thank you and, wax lyrical about you, we get offended. And you give them the cold shoulder, or some parents even the silent treatment, which is so manipulative. But more and more I'm hearing like, oh, this actually happens in homes, and it's very common. And we are acting like children, but we're expecting our children to act like adults towards us. And we've just got that all upside down. And I think it's a wake-up call for us as adults to act like the adults that we're called to be, and to actually be loving authority in our children's lives. And that means that we choose friendship later, because later we're going to have whole wonderful relationships with our children. But it's like actually choosing in the moment. I'm choosing to be your parent, not your friend, which is hard. That's teaching you that you're not the center of the world. God is the center of my world. But I suppose my question, and maybe we can talk for a while around, actually for us as adults, how can we begin to deal with some of our stuff, have these conversations? How do we actually mature?
Yeah. Wow. That's a great question. Like, how do you mature? So you want to be a parent, not a friend. What I'd just clarify is, to be a parent, not a friend, is something better than a friend.
Yes.
So it's not either or. To be
and it's
a
not
parent,
to say we're not close relationally to
Of
our children,
course,
or their
exactly.
confidant, or their sounding board.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm nervous about that almost getting too oversaid, because a parent is a guide, a friend, a confidant, somebody who you're close with. It just means you still have authority that is necessary. And I think in a decreasingly world that under-celebrates authority, parents just lose sight of that. So how do you mature? I mean, goodness me, that is it's a $1 million question. But I think first it starts with, do you want to mature? Do you actually want to grow up? And in some ways we've idolized youth and childhood. And so how many people talk about, the good old days, and when we were varsity, and when we were young and wild and free. And so we don't always have a vision for maturity that the future looks bright.
Yeah.
And growing old together with kids and grandkids and maybe great-grandkids is a compelling vision. You're like, how do we stay perpetually young?
Sure,
So if you want to stay perpetually young, then you also potentially want to, play on your PS2 all day. And so you want to find kids who will do the same with you. And that's just not okay, and that's not biblical, and that's not God's vision for you. So I think the first thing, again, is to go, do you want to grow up? Do you want God to grow you up? Do you want to become a father or a mother with the heart of God the Father?
Yeah.
Start there. Do you want that? If you do, cool. Then you can actually start to dig into God, dig into community, dig into God's word, and let God mature you. And I think it's the same but different for men and women. I think dads tend towards a kind of apathy and an avoidance that says, you know what, as a dad, I'm going to defer parenting to the mom in certain ways. And I think, so I speak for men. I think our call is to embrace our fatherly roles and to say, I want to become a good father. I don't want to fit into the stereotypes. I don't want to become, some macho father. I don't want to become some, super funny guy. I want to become a godly man who loves his family and his community well, and who shows his children what love looks like, and who knows how to be loved. And that starts by, in my mind, facing the truth.
Yeah.
Actually, where am I immature? Why am I insecure? Why does my ego seem to get the better of me? Why am I comparative? Why do I keep, spending more time wondering how I can get a car like the guy down the road, or do this for my kids? And why do I think more about how much I provide for my kids than, financially? And dig in, become willing to ask yourself tough questions so you can grow out of them. I think too many people are skimming the surface of life, flying forward, and not letting themselves grow. And your kids they become what you are.
Yeah.
So your parenting growth is all about you learning to grow up, and your kids are going, wow, dad's growing up. He doesn't seem to care as much about the car he drives anymore. He seems to spend more time with us, and he seems to have a new instinct for loving and being loved, and he's much more tender with mum than he was, but he's still strong. Like, Dad's grown. Like, they can't quite put words to it. That's okay. You're growing up because you're doing the deep work where no one sees it, and it's bearing fruit, and that work happens in the quiet place. I'm sure there's a lot of similarities with women, but that would be my thought for men and then building friendships with other men who are also wanting to grow and actually mature, not stay, perpetual adults, perpetual children who look like, old people.
Yeah. That was the first thing that jumped into my mind, is we need each other to not let each other off the hook on those things. Because I think even as I witness in community, like growing relationships that are growing in depth, there's almost two types. Relationships grow, and sometimes there's like, you just pick up like, okay, we can go this here and no further. This area I'm just not willing to talk about. Don't challenge me on this. Don't come on that. We're just not talking about the way that I do this.
Parenting is one of those.
Like parenting, or even a type of parenting. Like, I do this in my parenting, but this is why, and I'm not willing to talk about it. And I'll be vulnerable about this, and we can talk about that and laugh about that, but this is not for that. And then there's another group of people who fight, even though it's hard, to be an open book to a trusted group of people. And the trajectory of those two lives are actually very different. Yeah. And I think when we are saying, one of the green, like the litmus test of, am I actually letting God into all parts of my life so that I can deal with my weaknesses and my blind spots, is, am I also open to bringing it into the light in community? And we're not, again, whenever we say these types of things, we're not saying air your dirty laundry to your whole life group or the whole church, but do you have trusted relationships where you can bring your stuff to and let people actually speak and not just share? Because I think also a lot of people, I just need a vent, or I just need to talk. No, it's actually saying, guide me, talk to me, give me advice. What do you think? What could I be doing better? And nurturing those types of relationships.
The other last maybe thing I'd say on maturing, because your kids are following in your slipstream. So if you've got no maturation happening in your life, you put a glass ceiling on your kids' maturation, because they just catch it. But the best way to mature is to learn to love and be loved by your spouse, which gets us to our next topic and our next podcast, because I think therein lies such a crucial thing. We've tried to silo and go, let's talk parenting, let's talk marriage, let's talk work. No, your marriage is your primary fountainhead for parenting.
Yeah.
You literally parent out of your marriage, and you can't be good parents and bad spouses.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a bad spouse, bad husband, bad wife, it's impossible. No, it's not going to affect it. It's impossible to be a good parent. You can't do it. So how you and I love each other is the limit on how our children learn to love. There is no forward movement and progress apart from that.
Yeah.
So that's where you start, and we'll talk about that in our next one.
Yes.
Get mature by learning to become mature in marriage.
In marriage, yeah. Yeah, so good. I feel like maybe there's one area that we should, still chat about, maybe as we come into land, or there's two areas a little bit, but I think what really touched a nerve as well is the idea of safety and comfort for children, and how very much the dominant cultural narrative is very much around, does my child feel safe? So it's not necessarily physical safety, although that's part of it, the best car seats and the best everything.
It's mostly relational.
It's relational safety, and do they feel like they can be who they are and express themselves? And that whole thing of literally, I hear parents saying, "No, I just say to my child, you do you," and we kind of let them be that. And do they feel? Can they be everything that they are and express themselves? And it's this hyper individualism, and how, I suppose the question is just what is the response of the church and a family who's trying to actually run hard after God and be a witness of the gospel and Jesus' grace to us? How do we kind of reject that? What does the opposite of that look like?
Yeah.
And
well, maybe I think that's a good question, and I think the antidote, see, what we've got a culture that goes create safety and comfort for kids. What's the alternative? And the alternative in my mind is character. So there's this idea that I must create safety, comfort. My kid must grow up in a place that feels safe, and that's relational, emotional. It's physical, and And you know that there's stats that say your brain doesn't grow without discomfort. So your brain literally grows in a place of discomfort. Is new neural pathways that are fired, not in comfort, but in discomfort. So your kid doesn't grow. So the irony of all this is, I want a successful child, but you don't want your child put in places of discomfort.
Which is
so
where
then we
actually
curate discomfort.
Yeah.
And we almost overly curate it in strange ways. And we need, I think, to create spaces where our children are in increasingly, depending on age and stage, able to be in discomfort, relational discomfort, where they need to learn to know that not everyone's going to like them all the time. Some kids aren't going to say nice things about them. That's part of growing up. And if you always are defending and covering up, any possibility that your child might not be liked or have some relational opposition,
or do something they're scared of relationally,
like say sorry, please, or thank you with eye contact. So for us, that's a place we start as we're trying to coach our kids. It sounds so simple, but just get that as like the foundation.
Yes.
Can you look people in the eyes and say, please, may I?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry I did that, which is something not many adults are good at these days.
Totally.
So we're coaching ourselves and we're coaching each other and we're coaching our kids to get that right as a good place to start.
Yeah.
What else are we doing?
Oh, my mind gone blank because I looked at the next question. So
Okay.
I'm trying to stay
I had
on
this. I had this metaphor. Can I share it?
Okay, can I just remember two things
Yeah,
that
go for
someone
it.
shared last night? That this thing of exposure to discomfort and how that grows character. Someone shared a story in our life group. I think it's an Afrikaans saying that I can't say in Afrikaans, but it's basically like the person who faces the strongest headwind grows the strongest calves. And
Yes.
I love that. But that actually we're like, yes, I want a child with strength, the strong calf muscles, but we letting them run with the wind, like making everything easy for them the whole time. And they're not going to get strong that way, but actually letting them face appropriate, obviously we're not saying like expose your child wrongly to difficulties, but and I suppose it's like actually letting them lean into the curriculum of their life that God has laid for them. So the natural difficulty of life that comes with school and family and siblings and church and community. And again, that's why community is so important, because a lot of the discomfort comes with like, say thank you to this person that just gave you something, go and throw this away even though you're nervous to cross the room, or share your toys with these children, or whatever. I think a lot of families isolate and they're away from community and they don't want to bring their child because it's difficult, so you don't come to church or you're not at life group, and then actually everything relational then becomes difficult for your child and you're sheltering them from that. So yeah, that's part of it, not shying away from the headwinds of life.
And I think that basically says that idea of teaching your kids to go into the world of others. So I had this picture. Can I share it around the sports teams?
Yeah.
Is it appropriate?
Yeah.
I'll do it as quick as I can. But I was thinking about sport. I got a cramp in my leg. So can I I had this metaphor that came to my mind, and it's the idea of school sports, okay? And bear with me because I think it's going to help us understand our parenting approach. So what you've got here, I think of an analogy or an actual real life moment where a mum said, "I'm just so glad my daughter's playing."
Yeah.
And in my mind, her daughter wasn't playing at all. She's standing on the netball court, sort of staring, watching her friends play, doing absolutely nothing. Now, let me explain, because some of you are going, "That's not nice, Roger. That's pretty rude." But here's what we're being told in schools and the parenting kind of culture is something to this effect: is as long as you're participating, well done in the sports field. Just participate, just be there. But in the classroom and with your peers, you stand up for your rights. You do you. You are a strong individual, and you don't let
no nonsense.
you take no nonsense, and you don't let anyone speak bad about you. But think about that, okay? Sports was never made, team sports as an example. I love team sports. I just love sport. Team sport was created to go, we've got an enemy that we're going to battle against. It's another school, and we're going to work together. We're not going to fight against each other, which often happens in school sports these days. We're going to fight together to beat that opposition, and we're going to win together. And if you're in trouble, I'm going to get beside you. I'm going to help you. And if I'm in trouble, you're going to get beside me and you're going to help me. And at the end, hopefully we'll win. But whether we win or lose, we know that this is just a metaphor for life, that there are other battles we need to fight and we need each other. And so at the end of this battle, we're going to shake hands, we're going to give each other an ice lolly, and we're going to say high five, well done. Because that was a metaphor for the fact that as a Christian, I know, I'm fighting a battle against darkness, sin and Satan and death. And Jesus has won it, but I'm called to go shoulder to shoulder with brothers and sisters and fight against evil for the glory of God and the good of the world. The interesting thing about our parenting is we're almost saying the opposite. Is we're saying in the modern culture, we're just saying you fight for yourself. And if anyone wrongs you, you don't let them. And so we're coaching a hyper-individualism at home. And then people are standing on the sports court going, well, I don't need to do anything.
Because they don't know how to team.
Because they don't know how to team. Yeah. And so we've got to, I think, turn the culture around as best we can and say, how do I learn to fight for the other people around me rather than fight for myself?
Yeah.
And that needs to then go into our friendships and go, you're not meant to fight against them. You're meant to learn to work together in the classroom. And then you can go into the sports field and you can work together to beat the common enemy, which is a metaphor, because you're going to shake hands afterwards and say, well done, and see them at church on Sunday, whatever it may be. So I don't know if that metaphor helps, but it's kind of just unbundling this individualistic idea that I think we're just missing it. We need to teach kids to battle and to fight and to try hard in the right
for
places,
the right stuff. Yes.
So that we learn to fight for each other, not against each other.
And it speaks again to that hyper individualization and how our culture so celebrates the individual that something like a team sport, for instance, actually is a vehicle to make my little individual child feel wonderful. It doesn't matter what she's contributing to the team as long as the team is serving her, or this platform is serving her individualism, her expressing herself.
And that means on the one hand, you've got a kid who just stands there and sort of just gets a participation applaud and they get some vitamin D and their body gets healthy. Or on the other side, you've got high performers who parents are bowing down to their child to get them to play for the province or the country. But actually, there's another goal for this whole idea of team, which is how do I learn to give myself for the good of others to accomplish a goal? That's what team sport's all about, and that's what we're trying to parent our kids into. Which is maybe where we could land on the idea of discipleship and
I think
interdependence.
That's, even when we talk about all these examples, in and of themselves, they're not perfect. You can pick it apart. It's not about the team and it's not about the headwind, all these things that we've said. But it's primarily about the fact that if you are a Christian parent who is raising someone in the next generation, we are hopefully we're raising on someone that we are passing on the gospel of Jesus to. We want to raise up disciples of Jesus who have seen a better day. And so we as parents need to keep, and again, it comes back to our maturity, how white hot is my passion for the gospel? Am I running hard after Jesus? Someone, again, in our life group said last night, it's like we're a speedboat with a wake behind us, and our kids get to surf the wake of us running hard after Jesus. We're not putting the kid out front trying to steer the boat with this rudder of the child in the front. It's like everything's back to front. Actually, no, we've set our trajectory, our course, and we are in love, obsessed with Jesus and the person of Jesus and his glory and his kingdom coming to earth now. And our kids come into the slipstream and in the wake of that, and they can only be splashed by his grace in those moments. But it's like checking our passion constantly, and that's why we need each other as well. But also remembering, actually, you are raising a disciple. And so it's, again, that's why it's the conversation. It's not necessarily always, is this right? Is that right? Is this right? Is that right? There isn't a perfect formula or a silver bullet. It's constantly asking God for his help. I mean, we have the unfair advantage of the Holy Spirit, who actually is our helper, empowers us to do what he's called us to do. The task of parenting is a calling. He's called you to parent these children. He hasn't asked you to do it in your own power. He's actually said, I'm going to fill you with my spirit, so you have words to say, so you know what to do, so you have discernment, you have wisdom, and not everyone has that, and we need to use it and daily be praying, God, help me, fill me, use me on this primary mission field, which is my children, and to realize we're not raising. Again,
maybe to say it's not your primary mission field, that your children realize they're on They're on
Wow.
a journey
They're on
with
God's
you.
mission.
So they're on
Yes.
God's mission. He's our mission field. He's called us to a better way,
Yes.
and we're taking them on the
Yes,
journey. And
the
I think
adventure,
that's one of the nuclear family problems. Is
Yes,
this,
another
like,
version of idolatry, actually.
yeah, so we're like, our family is the primary thing about us. And it's a very modern idea. We could spend a whole podcast on that. But the point is, no, actually, you're trying to say, come, kids, and others. There's going to be young
Yes.
people in the life of our community. We can't look at our own kids and go, they're the only people I make disciples of.
Totally.
That's one of the big dangers. We've got to
Yes.
go, I'm meant to make disciples of as many people as God would let me. My kids are the starting point.
Yes.
In fact, my spouse is my starting point. They're my kids, and then other people in
Yeah.
our life. And why? Because God's that good and that big that we don't just live for ourselves. We live for His glory. So my closing thought, if I could, is this is countercultural. This is not your average way of doing it.
Yeah.
So you need to settle that. If you want to make disciples of your children, what you're saying is you're not going to make disciples like the culture.
Yes.
And that means you're going to do some real deep diving.
Yeah.
And
And
that
it's going
means
to look very different.
we haven't even mentioned screens.
Yeah.
Like the dominant tech of our world, which is so dangerous in the parenting arena, that is basically subverting parenting and taking over. Man, we've got to be that's
Yeah.
another podcast
Yeah.
in itself, to how do we deal with screens.
Yeah.
But the point is, we're going against the grain.
Yeah.
And we're saying, Jesus, teach us how to parent in a way that we're not fighting our culture. We're fighting for the glory of God
Yeah.
in a culture that is trying to tell us one thing.
Yes.
And we're saying, we're not going to fight you. We just want to show a better way.
Yeah.
And I think we will.
Yes.
And I think it's one of our missional opportunities for the future, that people are going to look at Christians who've discipled their children well, and they're going to say something like this: you seem to like your children,
Yeah. and
I like your children.
Yeah.
Which is kind of gets me quite emotional, because I think a lot of people don't
Yeah.
enjoy their kids. And we need to really, it's a crisis. We need to go, God, how do we help other people to raise kids that one day they're going to like?
Yeah.
And the most likable people are followers of Jesus,
Yeah.
who've caught His love. So it's urgent.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. I think we should land there. We've covered so much. It feels like we could definitely have part 2. Maybe we will. But thank you for listening, and thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
joining
you.
us on this marriage and parenting top up. Marriage is part 2 coming soon.
Coming
Watch the
soon.
space.
Thanks.
Thanks.